Why Troy's mother gave Worf this hilarious nickname in Star Trek, TNG. Star Trek The Next Generation had no shortage of unforgettable guest stars, but few characters left as lasting an impression as Lwaxana Troi, Deanna Troi's outspoken and eccentric mother. Played with magnetic energy by Majel Barrett Roddenberry, Lwaxana's flamboyant personality often clashed hilariously with the otherwise professional and composed crew of the Enterprise D. She was the exact opposite of the Starfleet ideal, loud, overly affectionate, uninhibited, and often invasive. And yet, she also revealed surprising depth in her rare quiet moments. But among her many quirks and antics, one of the most memorable was the pet name she gave to Worf, the stoic Klingon security officer. For reasons only she seemed to fully understand, Lwaxana took to calling Worf Mr. Wolf. It was a nickname that worked on several levels: playful, mocking, affectionate, and irreverent all at once. And in true Lwaxana fashion, she never hesitated to wield it in the most inappropriate situations. The nickname might seem like a throwaway joke at first glance, but like much of Star Trek, it carried hidden layers of meaning. Mr. Wolf wasn't just comic relief, it became a clever reflection of Lwaxana's personality, Worf's struggle for dignity, and even the series' larger theme of breaking down walls between cultures and individuals. So why exactly did Lwaxana Troi call Worf Mr. Wolf? And what does it tell us about their characters, their relationship, and the spirit of the next generation? The origins of Mr. Wolf. The first appearance of the nickname came in the TNG Season 1 episode Haven, which introduced Lwaxana Troi. The episode revolved around Deanna's arranged marriage, a traditional Betazoid custom that she had no interest in pursuing. Lwaxana swept onto the Enterprise in grand fashion, immediately throwing everyone off balance with her commanding presence and frank observations. Within minutes, she was speaking her mind about Starfleet officers, her daughter's love life, and the oddities of Klingons. And when she met Lieutenant Worf, she instantly dubbed him Mr. Wolf. The name stuck, and she would continue to use it in future appearances. There's something inherently comedic about taking a character as stern and proud as Worf, a warrior from a species that values honor, tradition, and combat, and reducing him to a nickname that sounds like something you'd give a family dog. Lwaxana knew exactly what she was doing. She was cutting through his intimidating exterior with a single word. But beneath the humor, there's an important truth. Lwaxana was a telepath, able to sense the feelings of others. She knew Worf's gruffness was a mask for a more complex inner life. By teasing him with Mr. Wolf, she was acknowledging that she wasn't fooled by his bark. She could see there was more beneath it. Worf's worst nightmare: losing his dignity. Worf's defining trait throughout the next generation was his struggle to balance being a Klingon with serving in Starfleet. He constantly strove for respect, discipline, and dignity. To him, being taken seriously was paramount. He was a warrior at heart, and warriors demand honor. That's exactly what made Lwaxana's nickname so hilarious. Every time she called him Mr. Wolf, Worf visibly bristled. His stiff posture tightened even further, his scowl deepened, and his already low growl of a voice dropped an octave. In his mind, her nickname undermined everything he wanted to project: respectability, gravitas, and menace. But that clash was also why it worked so perfectly. Lwaxana existed to push buttons, to peel away pretension, and to expose hidden vulnerabilities. She embarrassed her daughter constantly. She disarmed Captain Picard in ways few others could. And with Worf, she saw through his Klingon bluster. By refusing to treat him with the solemnity he demanded, she forced the audience, and maybe even Worf himself, to see him as more than just an armored warrior. The joke wasn't just on Worf. It was on the very idea of maintaining rigid self-images. Star Trek, after all, is about growth and understanding. Sometimes that begins with being laughed at. The cultural clash at the heart of the joke. Star Trek has always thrived on cultural collisions, and the Mr. Wolf gag fit neatly into that tradition. Betazoids and Klingons couldn't be more different. Betazoids, emotionally open, often flamboyant, highly intuitive, and telepathic. They value transparency and communication, even when it's uncomfortable. Klingons, reserved except when in battle, deeply traditional, and obsessed with maintaining strength, pride, and control. When Waxana and Worf interacted, it was the ultimate odd couple dynamic. She represented openness taken to the extreme, while he embodied discipline and restraint. Her nickname poked at the cultural dissonance. To a Betazoid like her, a Klingon wasn't fearsome, he was endearing, like an overgrown guard dog. Calling him Mr. Wolf was her way of deflating his cultural baggage and treating him like just another person. In its own way, it was a subtle form of cultural bridge building, even if it drove Worf insane. Comedy as a Star Trek weapon. The Next Generation often leaned heavily into serious themes, diplomacy, morality, the future of humanity. But humor was just as vital. Without levity, the show would have risked becoming stiff and overly self-important. Characters like Data in his attempts to understand jokes, Q with his chaotic energy, and Waxana Troi provided much-needed comic disruption. Mr. Wolf was a prime example of how comedy could enhance the drama. By cutting Worf down to size, the nickname humanized him. Instead of just being the scowling security chief who broke up bar fights, Worf became a more three-dimensional figure, someone who could be the butt of a joke without losing the audience's respect. The humor also highlighted one of Star Trek's core messages, that no matter how alien someone might appear, they still have relatable flaws. Worf's annoyance at being teased felt universal. Who hasn't had a nickname they hated but couldn't shake? Waxana as the disruptor. It's important to note that Mr. Wolf wasn't just about Worf. It was a reflection of Waxana herself. She thrived on disruption. She lived to shake people out of their comfort zones. For her, rules were suggestions, decorum was optional, and inhibitions were pointless. Every nickname, every over-the-top gesture, every flamboyant entrance, these were her ways of forcing people to confront their own stiffness. When she called Worf Mr. Wolf, she wasn't just teasing him. She was challenging him to lighten up, to embrace the absurdity of life. That tension created some of TNG's funniest moments. Worf would scowl, Waxana would beam, and the crew around them would quietly smirk. It was Star Trek at its most playful, using character interactions to reveal truths about personality and culture. The deeper message behind the joke, on the surface, Mr. Wolf was a silly nickname. But dig deeper, and it reflected one of Star Trek's timeless lessons. We all take ourselves too seriously sometimes. Worf needed to be reminded of that, and Waxana was the perfect person to do it. In many ways, the nickname anticipated Worf's long-term character growth. By the time he transitioned to Deep Space Nine, Worf had become more comfortable with humor and less rigid in his pursuit of honor. The seeds of that evolution were planted in moments like these, when someone refused to treat him with the reverence he demanded. And for viewers, Mr. Wolf was a reminder that laughter is universal. No matter how alien someone might appear, they can still be disarmed by a joke. Legacy of the nickname. Even decades later, Mr. Wolf remains one of the most quoted Waxana Troi moments. It pops up in fan discussions, me,